fleet managers looking for ways to minimize fuel costs? Even small gains can lead to significant savings. Download our fuel savings strategy guide today for 80 actionable tips to boost your fleet's fuel economy.
The adoption of zero-emission trucks in the U.S. jumped in the second half of last year, but the big winner was one light-duty application. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Jason Cannon and my co-host is Matt Cole. The June 2026 edition of the biannual Zeroing In on ZETs report showed that zero-emission trucks, or ZETs, represented 4.14% of all commercial truck deployments nationwide from July through December 2025. The figure marks a significant shift from the first half of the year when clean energy trucks accounted for just 1.32% of deployments as part of a broad industry slowdown.
By vehicle segment, commercial cargo vans remain the primary market driver, accounting for 12,158 deployments in the latter half of 2025, compared to 5,374 in the first half. Non-cargo van categories contributed just 838 deployments during the same period, led by notable upticks in municipal refuse trucks and medium-duty step vans.
The one thing that really kind of took me by surprise was the larger uptake in zero-emission refuse truck adoption. It kind of been slow, steady, but finally in the back half of last year, it took a huge spike up. It spiked up to about 3.92% of all deployments, which the previous high was only 1.52 in any 6-month reporting interval. So that was kind of really exciting to see that segment get a lot of more deployments. I've heard some good things about refuse trucks, and I think it was really exciting to see that there's many examples of cities or, actual like Republic services having a demo of one or two, it going really well. And then they're ordering 10 to 20 more. I personally believe refuse is one of the most ideal applications due to the start and go nature, and you're able to recoup so much from regenerative braking. So it was really exciting development that I was not actually expecting to see today. So I'm going to be really looking forward to seeing how refuse truck adoption continues in the coming year and hoping it continues its upward trend. Yard tractors have been on the up for a while. They're upwards almost near 10% of new deployments are already zero emission for yard tractors. I'm not even surprised to see large numbers on them anymore. So that's why I think, hopefully refuse can continue in that same direction here in the coming years that yard tractors are currently experiencing.
Other heavy-duty segments faced a lot of headwinds, among them a poor freight economy that lasted 3 years, emissions legislation and regulatory upheaval, and technology advancements that don't seem to come fast enough with the infrastructure that supports them. And in the case of hydrogen, the lack of a business case that makes any sense for the foreseeable future.
Hydrogen, there's only one OEM out there right now with a heavy-duty Class 8 truck that runs on hydrogen. That's Hyundai with the Exient. It is hard to get significant adoption when there's only one OEM competing. And as you had stated earlier, there's not really a sufficient infrastructure. And if there is infrastructure, the price of hydrogen is pretty high with the standardization of the megawatt charging standard. And, Tesla and BYD and all these other OEMs on the battery electric side really kind of improving their models and coming to market with good production ability and forward pricing. Hydrogen probably sees a very slim market in the future just due to the overall complexities around hydrogen. Hydrogen off of the one model that's available today can operate in the regional haul, but I don't think fleets see it that way. With the advancements of bioelectric technology, I believe most fleets are treating regional haul as battery electric moving forward. I will also say fleets like to do what's not hurting them. And a lot of them maybe have a bad taste in their mouth with hydrogen and possibly would not want to go back. So I believe from fleets, they enjoyed the hydrogen, but with the lack of support and infrastructure and the current, if they have Nikola fuel cell electric trucks, those are basically sitting on their lot, not doing anything. So I think they kind of have a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth right now, especially for near term, if there were to be a new market entry. I believe hydrogen and its benefits have the ability to allow it to be successful in regional haul and long haul, but it's going to be more medium or long term until there's sufficient support network for it.
That bad taste Jacob mentioned is the implosion of Nikola, but there's no shortage of upstarts on the battery electric side that also left some customers holding the bag. Those are the risks of being on the cutting edge.
And that comes with bioelectric too. If, they have a bad taste in their mouth from a older OEM, let's say someone bought like a Lightning E-Motors or a Lion bioelectric truck, I think, you're going to have a bad taste in your mouth for that. It just so happens that Nikola had the majority of hydrogen deployments. So those who experienced hydrogen most likely experienced it through a Nikola. And therefore, those who have it have a bad taste in their mouth. But again, that was just a handful of fleets. So there's probably still a lot out there who would, want to entertain hydrogen and actually have yet to even get a vehicle. But it's going to take more market entries to this hydrogen segment to really accelerate adoption and kind of create that market competition.
The report highlights that 120 ZETs were taken out of service in 2025, potentially signaling the early development of a secondary ZET market as those leases expire or vehicles go up for auction. For a fleet manager calculating total cost of ownership, residual value is a massive question mark.
I believe the majority of those vehicles are actually cargo vans. There may be a few handful out there in the medium duty, heavy duty truck segment. But yeah, I think it is an early sign that we're starting to see some turnover of these vehicles. I know that data is hard to come by on, what they're actually reselling for. So it's going to be important for us to kind of track these early things and then use this to kind of help, inform insurers and the policymakers on ways you can further accelerate it and help that secondary market through some sort of residual value guarantee mechanisms or a used zero-emission vehicle voucher. I still believe we're a few years away from anything significant, as you really kind of need to have a really healthy secondary market to establish any sort of baseline. But we can start those early kind of educational talks like right now to ensure we're ready in the 3 years.
Jacob mentioned earlier the success refuse fleets are finding with zero-emission trucks. And while build-out of other heavy-duty applications has been slow, there are some transferable lessons from those successful refuse deployments that over-the-road and regional fleets can apply to accelerate their own private infrastructure timelines.
I believe the refuse application of Start and Go is so unique, but you could probably see in anything local delivery or even urban delivery where you're in the city and doing a lot more of that kind of stop and go or idling. So you could probably have some lessons shared from, the energy efficiencies of those vehicles on refuse to, the heavy duty trucks. I did talk to a fleet who had demoed a Class 8 truck at a port, and they were like, oh, the efficiency didn't live up to like what they were touting. But also their diesel truck ran at a significantly less miles per gallon than you may say the average. So I still believe the delta will still be there depending on the application, because most fleets are going to run the same application, whether it's diesel to battery electric.
The report notes an uptick in late 2025 ahead of federal tax credits expiring on September the 30th of 2025. But there were some noteworthy orders placed after the credits expired. Jacob says that post-incentive orders suggest that technology maturity and operational fit is beginning to outweigh financial incentives when it comes to procurement.
I think the economics make sense without incentives in some cases. I think fleets, they run the model, right? They can see when they do the demo, they can see how much fuel they're going to save and they can extrapolate that over time. They have greater assurance that they can own this vehicle longer. Maybe instead of turning the vehicle over in 3 to 4 years, they plan to own it for 7 to 8 years because an OEM is offering, that long of battery warranty in some cases. So I think when they kind of go down and they look at their business ledger, they really see the economic case make sense, whether that's with or without incentives. And it's just a federal tax credit of like $40,000. There's still state incentives out there. So many fleets can even stack upwards of $120,000 in multiple states as well. So I don't think the expiration of a federal tax credit, I think there's people were going to hop on it and take advantage of it. But I don't think it's going to be indicative of, slowing it down, as there are still plenty of financial support and fleets really leaning into the total cost of ownership aspect of owning one of these vehicles.
HD adoption has mostly been strictly a big budget mega fleet play. But Jacob says more small and medium fleets are finally starting to wade into the pool.
Fleets of all sizes can adopt. I think where you're starting to see some of the larger fleets, maybe skew scores, are going to be in those states without incentives. That just shows the importance of incentives to help, make this an equitable transition to zero-emission trucks and allow fleets of all sizes to have the ability to transition to cleaner, better technology. So in states like California or Washington or New York, New Jersey, where there are some incentives, you're going to see a big widespread of fleet sizes adopting these vehicles. It really comes down to, one, where is there freight to be moved? Which Atlanta is a huge freight hub spot. So a lot of freight movement is going in and out of there. There's a lot of vehicles there. And not just that, they're running the really kind of ideal routes. These kind of local drayage routes of 50 to 100, those are great, but you have to run those, you have to make 2 or 3 pulls a day to kind of really get that annual mileage. So in Atlanta, and even in like Texas, running these kind of Houston, San Antonio, Dallas routes, you're creeping up on the like 200, 300 mile daily trips, which is the sweet spot for a really good economic case in these states. So I think you have the kind of right applications in these states, coupled with some really good economic cases of high diesel prices and low electricity prices. We call this spark spread here at CalSTART, but it's basically what is that delta on a per mile basis of electricity and diesel. And in some of these southern states, that's where you're going to see it the most. So, California, we like to say, they have, really high electricity prices. But they also have really high diesel prices too. So that spark spread's actually pretty good in California, but it's seen the greatest in actually these southern states. So I think that is a key aspect of it and why we're starting to see some adoption in the Floridas, the Georgias, and the Texases.
That's it for this week's 1044. You can read more on ccjdigital.com. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter and stay up to date on the latest in trucking industry news and trends. If you have any questions or feedback, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you can catch us again next week.